Boys and girls, tough cookies, how lucky are we this evening to be talking to one of my good pals, an incredible performer. You know him from the Scissor Sisters, you know him from his solo career, you know him from all of his collaborations. A fantastic singer, a memoirist, a star of Broadway stage, the great Jake Shears. How are you today, Jake?
I'm good, Adam. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I'm good. Great.
We have a lot of fans, a lot of Jake Shears fans watching right now. And I just want to welcome them to the Tough Cookie scene. Everyone is welcome here. And for those of you that don't know Jake's work, by the end of this conversation, I'm going to turn you on. I'm always trying to turn people on, but I'm trying to turn them on to you.
Wicked. Awesome. Thank you. That's very sweet. That's all very sweet stuff you just said. I appreciate that. That's really nice.
Jake, you and I have a lot in common. And one of the things that we have in common is I know that you moved to New York City around 1998 or 1999, which is when I moved to the city. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes.
I always try to tell people how different New York City and the arts and performing scene were then and what it was like to sort of get off the boat. Um,
Mm.
but can you take us back for a minute to that time? What were you planning on doing? What were you trying to get out of New York City? Or did you not have a plan?
I had a kind of a plan. I tried LA for a year. Basically, I was using like college just to like as an excuse to sort of figure out what I wanted to do. So I was in Los Angeles for a year. I was 17 when I graduated high school. So like I went to Occidental in LA and just like I was just too young for LA. I come from the Northwest, so I went back to Seattle and studied American Sign Language for a minute, and then got into Eugene Lang at New York for fiction writing because I'd always written fiction all my life. And that's what I thought I was really gonna do
Wow.
with my life. And I just I knew if I didn't like LA, then New York was for me, you know? So when I
Mhm.
got to New York, I didn't know what I wanted other than attention. Like I needed attention. I've always needed a lot of attention growing up. And over the years, I've learned how to, focus that more and do it through the proper channels. I'm now 42 years old and like I don't need the same kind of attention that I did 20 years
Right.
ago. But I knew I needed attention. So I was doing anything I could. I mean, I started stripping and, there was lots of, I was in the East Village in Williamsburg, and there was lots of just cool little places that you could find. There was this bar called Icy Guys that would just like they could only serve beer and wine. And it was this sort of like this New Jersey guy who would sort of tend bar and you do the lights, and it only fit about 12 people in the bar. It was just like a tiny little place. And you just get in there and like strip and like make money. I would just like make loads of cash. I'd save it. I'd put the bills under my bed. It was fun. I got this weird. I was in this like unfinished loft in Williamsburg with all these people I didn't know. There was a really sweet, junkie that lived in the room, next door. It was just like he was also like painting pentagrams on the floor. It was just like. There were a lot of characters around, and I think the main difference was when I think back on that time is that, you didn't need a lot of money to like have
Yeah.
fun.
It still had that flavor of like the freewheeling 70s and 80s, downtown and Brooklyn art scene. It was still a place
Yes.
that you could go and teach a couple guitar lessons or like, play on the street or dance or whatever and make your rent and reinvent yourself,
Yes. But also like at the same time, when I got to New York, we were also having to kind of fight for it a little bit too, because you had Giuliani, in
Right.
office, you know, and we all
We used to
know like
call him, we used to call him Judy Ruliani.
I like that. I mean, he's a monster. You know, but I don't think it was as, you know, people didn't like, I mean, he really, like, now we all can look at him. I mean, this is a madman. But he was running New York City, and you know, you had bars like the Cock that had just started up, and um, you know, police were like raiding gay bars and stuff. I mean, it was nuts. Like, there were like raids happening, and so there was no dancing allowed at certain places. So there was this like stuff
Yeah.
also happening that was like super weird, but people were getting around it in this great way. And also it was kind of cool because, you know, in the gay world, just sort of the first time, like when the Cock opened up, like Mario Diaz was throwing these like parties that like sex, like gay sex was starting to become fun again.
Hmm.
You know, it really had like, you know, the
After,
90s.
right, after the AIDS era.
Yeah, I grew up, I mean, I was 15 when I came out in like 1992, and it was just like, it was, it was, you know, an intense, the 80s and 90s, they were just intense decades, and scary and sad, and, you know, and there was just like this sort of sexual shift happening. There was just sort of like a new kind of sexual movement that had just started, uh, you know, among certain bars and parties, and it was really it was exciting.
I used to perform at a bar. My very first job, uh, I was 20 years old. I worked at a bar called Pegasus, which was at 59th and Lexington. Do you remember Pegasus?
No, but it sounds awesome.
So Pegasus was a drag karaoke bar, and they had a couple rooms, and there was no sign. It was just like a black curtain, and they needed a piano player and a singer. And I always tell my fans and the Tough Cookie viewers that more than school, you know, more than piano lessons or singing lessons or dance lessons, like that was my education about how to perform and how to relate to people and how to have no fear. And so
Mm.
I'm wondering if you could talk for a second about from your time when you were stripping and go-go dancer and all the things that you were doing in your early New York time. How did the Jake Shears of the Scissor Sisters come out of that in terms of your
Mm.
performance style?
Um, well, it was when I first started, I started taking my clothes off in bars for cash when I wanted to go to Europe. I wanted to like go backpacking in Europe. So I was like, I'm gonna save a bunch of money. And I told my mom I was just like bar backing, and like really I was dancing and saving money. And like it was at first, I remember it was so scary. It was really like talk about nerve wracking. Like I remember the first time I was dancing, I was just like horrified, and like just like this whole thing being like, what am I doing with my life? And then it just started getting really fun, and
Yeah.
I loved it. I was having a great time, and I was feeling very comfortable, and yeah, just having fun, and getting to like wear weird things. And I think I got bored. There came a point where I was like, all right, like what else? Like this is, I know I can do more than this. Um, and a pal of mine, a really good friend of mine, had just started learning Logic, and we just started. I'd go over to his house, and we started just making like really stupid songs, just like having so much fun, just making like dumb, terrible, you
Mm.
know, awful songs. And uh, right after September 11th, I remember, you know, everything, and just the city was shut down. Everything had kind of ground to a halt. Nobody knew what they were doing. I had just gotten out of school and didn't know, like, there was no jobs to be had. Like,
Right.
anyways, I just had the idea. We were just, I said, why don't we go sing one of these songs? Why don't you and I go to find a place to go sing this song, which was called Bicycle of the Devil. And and so we found a spot. We found a little open mic night, and we
Where?
went,
You
and
remember?
it was at the Slipper Room.
Oh yeah.
And it was a night called Knock Off. And yeah, played it for the first time, and it was really, we just had a really good time, and we kept playing around with music and doing these sort of dumb club performances that we thought were really funny, but we're having fun. And we started writing, like accidentally writing good songs.
Right. So this is the earliest. Was it called the Scissor Sisters yet, or was it something else?
Yeah, the first time we performed, we there's all these rumors about other things we were called and whatever. I'm not even gonna repeat them, but
You can speak freely on Tough Cookies, let me tell you.
no, it's just not. It wasn't. It's not even. It's not entirely true, and I don't want to perpetuate the myth. But um, but yeah, we were Scissor Sisters, and when I had over, my friend used the term referring to lesbians he had gone out with the night before, and they said they were great and they had a great time, and I was like, oh, who are these lesbians? He was like, I don't know, he said something like, they were real Scissor Sisters. And I was just like, that is the best band name ever. So yeah, we started calling ourselves that and found the logo, and we were just having fun, and it was just a good outlet for I was enjoying performing and singing, and it was just a good time.
So fast forward a couple years, and the Scissor Sisters kind of exploded. And one thing that I wanted to ask you, it seems to me like the Scissor Sisters were really big in the US, but you were really massive in the UK.
Yeah.
Why do you think England flipped for you?
Well, we signed to Polydor, which is, it's a classic major British label, with a lot of great history, and and they were amazing. So when we signed, like, we got a major record deal, and they were they weren't fucking around. They weren't fucking around, and it was a different time, to where, I mean, we started out, running around the UK in a van, and all like living on top of each other, and we put in, a couple of years just running around the UK, just touring and touring and touring. And at the time, like, it was just a different, our first album came out February 2004.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, our record finally went number one over there like 6 months later.
Mm.
So it was still this era where you could like build a band. It wasn't like we put the record out and the label just dropped us because it didn't do anything at first. Like, they really did put money behind us, and believed in it, and like developed us, which, like, I think it just doesn't happen anymore. I think labels pick up people that are already sort of have developed themselves, through other means, whether it's, SoundCloud or Instagram or YouTube or whatever.
I don't know if you agree, but I also feel like the British radio is really strong, and they're less concerned about genre segregation than we are in the United States, where you have a country station and an R&B station and a pop station and a rock station. In the UK, it is a little more mixed, and I think that things that are a little left of center sometimes break through in a bigger way in the UK. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and there is just like a kind of history there with rock music and pop music, and it is more eclectic, and like, I just think about that time, and it was just like such an era over there. It was just like, I mean, I remember one of our first tours was, we were touring like college banquets. It was Amy Winehouse and us opening up for Ash was like headlining. We're just like, it was just such a cool era. Everybody was, so many people were over there at the same time. Franz Ferdinand was breaking, and the Killers were getting big, and there was just like, there was definitely like, and you look back, and it was an era of music, which is cool. But it is more eclectic over there, and they do celebrate sort of things that are left of center, and maybe a little bit more camp, and And
Did
I
you
think,
did
sorry.
you feel that as an out front person that it was a little bit easier? Like when you did UK press versus US press like 20 years ago, did it feel like an easier path to
No, it
success?
was annoying. I mean, it was annoying. Like I really felt like there was an element to it that was very tiresome. That was really just like they would just constant headlines and like the way people wrote about it would sometimes just be really like, come on, like they would really want to just like focus so heavily on it in a certain way, which is fine. I just remember at the time thinking, I remember at the time thinking, just I know it's annoying right now, but eventually it's going to be easier for others. It's not going to be like this forever. And if we just do this now, it's going to make it easier for the next person coming along, you know?
Right.
So, but no, we came across like so much like, like homophobia and this sort of dismissive attitude towards us in a lot of ways. In writing and all that stuff. And I think going all the way back to your question about like why, those that sort of discrepancy, is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Between the UK and the US, was, they had you had staggered releases at the
Right.
time. So our first record came out in February 2004 in the UK, and I think it came out that summer in July. It came out months later, and I think the narrative sort of happened because we had put all that work into the UK, and when our album came out over here, we just hadn't had the time yet to
Yeah.
grow and build it. So there was sort of this narrative in the media that we had like tanked over here.
Hmm.
But in actuality, we hadn't had the time yet to do it. And I mean, we had over the 10 solid years of Scissors, like we had a wicked run, over here. And,
Oh, fabulous.
you
I,
know,
I would like to, for some of the viewers right now that don't know what Jake Shears on stage is like, I have this clip that I want to show, if you don't mind. It's you doing Meltdown last year
oh,
um,
cool. Yeah.
in London. Can you set this up for us? What was the London show like last year?
um, it was almost exactly a year ago. It was the Electric Ballroom. And, uh, doing these are, I just put out my first solo album. I mean, it's been 2 years, and it just took a really long time. I ended Scissors in like 2012, or sort of disbanded us in 2013, and so it really took me a long time to figure out where I was going with it and everything. So it was a long kind of build up. And this last show, it was the last. This was the last performance I played.
Mm.
This was my last concert. This is the last time I was on stage, but it was really special because it just had finally sort of felt like it had jumped again into like another. I'd really been working at it on my own, and it just sort of felt like it had grown a little bit, and it was a really fun concert.
All right, well, let's check this clip out. I want everybody, all the tough cookies, they need to know what the full explosion of a Jake Shears performance is like. So let's look at Meltdown right now, London 2019. Go. Oh my God, that was fabulous. So now that they've seen just a small sliver, a little taste of you on stage, and we've talked about your time in New York City, and we've talked about your time in the early days of the Scissor Sisters and touring England, I wanted to ask you as a fellow joy maker, when times are tough, when there are challenges in the world, in this country, and in your own mental health, what do you do to access the boogie? What do you do to access the joy on a day when it's just not showing up at the door?
I gotta say, this year, I mean, for everybody, it's been like it's been a rough one. Uh, I went through a breakup too. I broke up with my boyfriend in July, and it was just fucking, it was agony, like
Mm,
absolute
I'm sorry
agony.
to hear that.
Feeling better, but you know what, like, has really been helpful to me is I've been saving my drinking to Fridays.
Mm.
You know, I really like, I felt like alcohol in certain ways, 'cause I love drugs and alcohol, and I do fucking tons of both, and then it's just like my favorite. Not my favorite, but you know, I over the years less and less because I am getting, but um, I was feeling like booze was sort of um just putting a damper on things, and especially going through a breakup and stuff. I was like, I really gotta separate a bit from this, and that has made me feel a lot better.
Are you
Made me
still
feel
able to, are you still able to sit down and write or create music, imagining yourself on stage, imagining yourself in a crazy, sweaty club, or are you writing like really depressing singer-songwriter songs at the moment?
the album that I'm writing. I'm about 2/3 through it, and I've just got a few more songs to go, and it's all a dance track. There's like not one, and the whole thing is a dance record. So it's
Great.
actually a little full on. I'm like, I don't know what to, there's great singles, and I don't really quite know, um, I don't know how to cap it off really. I don't know what this last third of the record is, because it's got to be something special. Um, but yeah, I think just getting up in the morning. I like writing in the daytime. Getting up, like feeling good and like working out and and just sitting down and playing around. I don't know if when I'm doing it, if I've got a vision for live shows right now. I've really been thinking of these songs as like just straight up like dance tracks. I want it to just be, I want the record to be like just one stop, just one nonstop party.
I can't
Um,
wait to hear that music because it's, as I say to my fans that watch this show, uh, joy is like a revolutionary act right now, right?
hmm,
Also, kindness is a revolutionary act right now.
yes,
It is in short supply. And
yes.
I always try to impress on people, and you're an artist I really admire for this, that the revolution and the, awakening of our senses, it doesn't have to be boring, right? We can be part of a resistance and talk about issues, but it can still be a party. uh, and that's one thing I love about your performances and your records, that you're hitting some nerves, but we're still dancing,
Yeah, I mean it's super important to me. I mean, Kermit the Frog said it best in the Muppet movie. He says at the end, he says, "I just want to sing and dance to make people
Mhm.
happy." That's just what I feel like I was like kind of put here to do, and that's just sort of my, that's kind of my philosophy as far as just music. Um and I think, right now there's so much, it's so easy, and I'm so guilty of it. uh just having fucking CNN on super loud in the car, and like, and I've switched back between that and Fox News, and just like get like like just listening to like all these it's really easy to just sort of fall in a hole of this stuff, and I really try to get up. I've got the music I'm going to listen to sort of programmed in, and feeling good in the mornings, listening to music, listening to stuff that inspires me, trying to find new stuff all the time that inspires me. So excited to get my turntable almost set up, all my vinyls finally here. I mean, I went to a record store the other day and got a fucking old Tangerine Dream record, which I'm super excited to have.
Did you go to Euclid Records? Where'd you go?
I wasn't Euclid's right down the street, but I was at Peaches. I went to Peaches. I was uptown. Lady that runs that is just so cool. I put my reservation in for the new Sign of the Times box set, and just
Yeah.
staying excited about listening to music and discovering music, and just trying to focus on keeping a not being sad, and
Yeah.
and that's I think right now that's a full-time job.
It is. It's work. You know, happiness is work, and joy making is work, right? But
Yes.
it is important. And speaking of that, while I have you, uh, we have some other things in common. We both love David Bowie. I know you're a huge David Bowie fan,
Yeah.
and you named your memoir "Boys Keep Swinging."
Yes.
Which for those of our viewers that don't know the Lodger record and the song "Boys Keep Swinging," I check it out. It's sort of a people don't pay attention to that record enough, but
Mm.
can you talk for a second about what Bowie meant to you growing up and why you named the book "Boys Keep Swinging"?
Yeah. So when I was born in '78, and I grew up with the Muppets, and I read, I was like, I was obsessed with it. I had Muppet magazine every season and come out 4 times a year, and I was just super in.
I
And
got Muppet
Henson,
magazine too.
did you? I still have a bunch of mine. Yeah, I loved reading Muppet magazine. I was all up on
Pee
like,
Wee Herman, Dolly
yeah.
Parton on the cover.
Um,
Best.
I'm trying to think. The Cosbys.
Yeah.
I still have that
I
issue.
definitely
Uh,
had a Who's the Boss Muppet magazine with Tony Danza, like a tiny Alyssa Milano with Kermit stuff.
Amazing. I was just thinking back on an article in there on Hands Across America. I don't know if you remember Hands Across America. And there was they had Lily Tomlin was being interviewed, and there was this great photo of Lily Tomlin like holding hands with Kermit and big. Anyways, I love that whole world, and have really like always been sort of steeped in the mythology and the history of it. Anyways, but Henson did Labyrinth, came out in '86. And I was so excited when it was coming out, and I had no idea who David Bowie was, but I was like super into this movie, and I loved the music was so awesome. And I asked my sisters, and they told me that he was a rock star and he had lots of albums. And I asked my mom to take me; she took me to Sam Goody, and I asked for David Bowie, and the lady put out, she put out Let's Dance and Tonight. They had Let's Dance and Tonight on cassette. And I picked Let's Dance first, and just really became obsessed with it. I think it's my favorite record of all time.
It's fabulous, and I'm sort of obsessed with trying to get Nile Rodgers onto the show so we can just break down the recording of that album, because it's like such a big part of my childhood, and it's like pop, rock, R&B, funk, disco. It's all the things. It's got Stevie Ray Vaughan plays the guitar.
Oh
with
my
Nile
God,
Rodgers playing the guitar. And anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Carlos Alomar, like it's so good. And I love the B side of it. I love that record has 8 songs on it, and I just think that is just the most badass thing you could ever do, is to put out an 8-song album that really feels like an album. And I love the second half of it so much, as well, aside from the singles. But anyway, so then I was 8 years old, and I discovered my next 2 cassettes I got were Lodger and Scary Monsters, and there's some dark stuff on Let's Dance. There's Ricochet is a weird song, but Lodger and Scary Monsters are both pretty dark records in their way, and have I just didn't know what I was listening to, and I got really, really obsessed with both of those albums. And Boys Keep Swinging was kind of the first sort of homoerotic song, other than Relax. When I was growing up, Relax was big on the radio, and I didn't know what that was either. But it was, I knew there was something there. But Boys Keep Swinging, and it's just like it's just a very it's a really fun song. I don't even know what you'd even, although I do know of something really weird about Boys Keep Swinging. It's the same chord progression as the opening song, Fantastic Voyage, which is another one of my favorite songs.
Oh.
And if you stand in another room and put either of those songs on in the distance, it sounds like the other song. Super weird. But those records, and I still listen to all 3 of those albums. I mean, I listen to all of his records constantly, but those three records still, you know, are just very important to me. And when when Black Star came out, I was so excited, and I was just rinsing it for, you know, the 48 hours before they announced his death. And like, that was just one of the trippiest moments of my life, because when I was a kid, something I would always think about was, when I was a child, I would think about, I knew that he was going to die before me, probably. I just knew that. I was like, Bowie's going to die before I do, and I wonder where I'll be.
Wow.
I always thought of that moment, and then suddenly that moment happened. It was just such a trippy, it was just so strange.
My
And
my friend Lily Hyatt, who's a fabulous songwriter, she has a song called "Where Were You When David Bowie Died?"
wow. Yeah.
And she just, when she's on stage, she just says to the audience, "Where were you when David Bowie died?" And it gets like pin drop silent, and then she plays
Yeah.
the song, and I remember where I was, and I think there's never been an artist from beginning to end, true artist, who turned his own death into a work of art. And he was like, he spoke to us with Black Star. He spoke to us with Lazarus. He was speaking to us saying, I'm up here.
And
I'm looking
I
down.
can't give everything away. I mean, his last song is "I Can't Give Everything Away," which is just like, I still listen to it, and it's so amazing. And it really did feel like a gift. Like when he, like that, it was like a fun trick being played on you. And of course I was so sad, but at the same time, like, I felt like as a fan, like he really like gave like, just did the ultimate like fun magic trick on us. And that was just like so exciting in a certain way. And by the next morning, I was, you know, that first night was just rough, and the next morning it was just, I don't know, it was just kind of a revelation. And the following week, I'd been going through a lot at the time, and I just, every night I would go to a different party, you know what I mean? I would go to a different Bowie party. And what was so special about it was like to get to hear a lot of, to get to hear Blackout, and to get to hear Beauty and the Beast, and you know, on club speakers, because you never get to hear those songs on like a fucking fuck off
Out in
sound
public,
system.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that was so cool. Like that was just really, and it even just gave me another like it sort of gave me another layer of like just audio perspective on it. And I don't know, I'll always listen to him,
I
and
love
get.
that you named your book "Boys Keep Swinging." You named it after Bowie for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons I really appreciate that is, you know, some people get into performing. People get into performing for different reasons, and somebody like you and myself, we're in it for life. It feels like a life sentence, and
Yeah.
David Bowie is an artist. He was artful in his music, in his images, and in his life. His life was a work of art, and it's kind of all his work always reminds me that we are here to be part of this art life that is a deal that you and I signed up for. Do you feel that way?
Yes, absolutely. And it's like my dream to, you know, I have this vision of like, I don't know, and I'm 42 this week, and like, I don't know, when I'm 70, like I have a vision of like, I really hope there's like, I envision these audience members like looking at me like still on stage and being like, wow, there he is, there he still is, you know.
He is still
That's my
taking off his
dream.
clothes. Yes.
Yeah, that's, and because I just you know, those, to have a long, you know, there's always going to be ups and downs, and there's like, it's so fascinating to listen to Iggy talk about like the late 90s and being like, nobody was coming to my shows, like I couldn't even get a crowd, you know. And he's Iggy Pop, and like
Yeah.
he, you know, you just have to keep going, and you just got to keep doing it, like no matter what. And that's just,
Yeah, and art careers are always going to be up and down.
Yeah.
But artists like that, they're in it for life. And
Yes.
I saw, speaking of Iggy, I was at that New York City, that first Stooges reunion show. And just speaking of taking off your clothes, it was like we sat there the whole day and watched all these crappy bands, and then it was the New York Dolls reunion, and then the Stooges reunion.
Wow.
And Iggy was like tearing clothes off of people, you know.
Yeah.
He was stripping himself, but also stripping the audience, and it was like so inspirational as a performer that I was looking at him and I thought, this is the least boring thing I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I know that when I watch you perform, I think Jake is from the same school. Don't be boring ever. Don't be boring ever.
No, no. And just like, getting out on stage, it's just all improvisation and just, just doing weird, like you just let your hands go wherever and just and go for it. And I also love, like, I do love, yeah, yes, it's improvisation, but I also love shaping shows over time and finding the things that work and putting them in. And it's just it's got to be my favorite thing to do
Well,
ever, is getting
before
on
I let you
stage.
go, and I don't want to, I would be remiss if I did not ask you about what is in the pipeline for you. And a little birdie told me that you and our mutual pal Elton John are working on something that is so obviously going to be a smash.
I
Um,
don't listen. You never. Who knows?
tell us
But
about tell us about this musical that you are working on with Elton, if you can, whatever.
yeah. Yeah, no, we've been, musicals take forever. This is my, I've made one musical already, and it was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years in the making. This has been a long time in the making. Um, it's an idea we had a long time ago, that has slowly come into fruition, and we finished the score in July.
And this is all about Tammy Faye Baker, am I right?
Yes. Yeah, it's about kind of the rise and fall of PTL, and it's about like Jim and Tammy, and it's like, it focuses on her. And I just gotta say, they take so long, and like I just sort of had a heavy heart for a while just because I really want, but we just finished the score, and it's so fucking good. It's so good.
Just like on paper, I haven't heard one note, but just you talking about it on paper, it's Elton and Jake Shears, a musical about Tammy Faye Baker. I'm in. Like, I'm in the front row.
Yeah.
I want a ticket. But P.S. I did a gig, one of the last real concerts I did before quarantine. I performed a solo concert in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I performed in this little cabaret theater with a piano. And I was there on a Saturday night. And the guy that runs the club says every Sunday morning, Jim and Tammy Faye Baker's son leads church services here on
Oh,
this stage.
yeah, Jay, he's an amazing guy. He's an amazing guy. We've gone back and forth. We've texted a lot. I still haven't had a conversation with him. I think he's like, "What are you writing about my mom?" And I've written him, and I'm like, "You're gonna be so happy. You're gonna be just like thrilled with this show." What's so awesome about when Elton is, when he's making a musical, you record all the songs like an album.
Right.
So I have this like 70-minute long like Elton John album that no one else has. That's like, it just feels like a rock opera. It's just like, it's bombastic and just wild, and it's got there's a lot of genres sort of mingled in it, but it is, I think at its core, it's a rock opera. I mean, it's just like, it feels like a rock show.
It's going to be a smash. Like, whenever Broadway is back, okay, whenever it's possible,
Yeah.
people will go on a feeding frenzy, right? Like they're
Yeah.
gonna. We're not able to see a Broadway show now, or live theater, or live music. When it's back, it's going to be back in a big way. And I hope that the Tammy Faye the musical, or whatever it's called, will be
Oh,
a smash.
yeah, I do too. And I'm super excited about it. And I just get, he's been, you've known him for a while, and we've been friends since 2004. And it's just a trip it's just I don't know, I'm just so excited to have this thing that we've made together over this long period of time. And it's just such a dream. I love him very, 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 very much. And
I can't wait. And I, I know you have your story to tell, but for me, a few years ago, getting a phone call from Elton, and just the support of Low Cut Connie has just been really important to me, not just in my career, but in life. Because,
yes.
as a kid, and when you're first trying to find your wings as an artist, as a performer, as a songwriter, for me as a piano player, the voices of doubt are stronger than the voices of self-belief, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So these moments, when people you really deeply admire, who blaze their own path, who are themselves to the max,
Yes.
when they tell you, keep it up, kiddo,
Yeah,
you're doing something, that can really put wind in your sails for a long time.
absolutely. Yeah, it's like it's a kind of support that is it keeps, yeah, it's just so inspiring, and it just makes you feel good. And I just think everybody needs that. And I feel, as I'm sure you do, very lucky that we get a bit of that from one of the greats.
One of the great artists, and probably the most generous live entertainers ever, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Jake, you've been so generous with your time. It's been so fabulous talking to you on Tough Cookies. I want all my pals on Tough Cookies to know that you can get Jake's book, Boys Keep Swinging, through your website, right?
Yeah, and through Amazon and what, or your order from bookstore or whatever.
And please go check out the Jake Shears solo record from 2 years ago, which is fabulous. And you
Thank
recorded
you.
that record at my friend's studio in Louisville at La La Land, isn't that right?
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin?
I know Kevin and my friend Ann, who is
Anne is
one of
great.
the
Yeah.
best.
And yeah, no, that was making this album there was one of my favorite experiences in life. Like it was amazing. That's so cool that you know them.
I can't wait for this dance record that you're putting together now. I hope there's a lot for us to dance and sing about next year.
Yes.
And
I have faith.
please just keep doing your great work. Tell me what moisturizer you use.
Wait, I gotta. Do you want just really quick? Do you want to hang on a second? Wait. There's all these. There's all these. I don't know where it is now. Oh, here it is. It's a Supergoop glow stick, SPF 50. So it's basically I've really been into it's oil. It's a full-on oil. That has an SPF in it, and it just gives you it makes you look sweaty, but I kind of like looking sweaty.
It gives you a glow. It gives you a glow. Boys and girls, we are not being paid right now to say this. This is just an organic product.
Yeah, I was really I've been using that a lot. So
well,
anyways,
keep the glow. We are going to be focusing this episode on you. We're going to be singing one of your songs. We're going to be singing a Sylvester song. We're going to be singing an Erasure song. We're going to be doing an Elton song and a David Bowie song, just because this show tonight is about Jake Shears. And
amazing.
Thank you for being on our little show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, keep in touch, Jake. Mwah.